Welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome to another opposition view segment. Of course, we've had a bit of a break from Everton games in the past week or so. Obviously, our game against Aston Villa was postponed. But next up, we've got an FA Cup fourth round tie at home at Goodison Park against Sheffield Wednesday. And for that, I'm pleased to welcome back, as I was saying earlier, just before we started rolling, a lot sooner than expected, to Dan Fudge from the Wednesday week. Always great to have Dan on. He was on, of course, last season ahead of our League Cup tie, which we won back then. With, I think Calvert-Lewin got on the score sheet, and obviously he's kicked on a lot since then. And we've got a lot to catch up on, Dan and I. It's been about a year and a half since we last spoke. So with that in mind, we'll get straight into that. And obviously we last spoke, as I said, in September 2019. It was, we were just starting the previous season, and we were playing you in the Carabao Cup. That ended with Everton winning the game. Gary Monk had recently been appointed at that stage for Wednesday, and he did all right, but he was sacked in November. What went wrong there under Gary Monk? Obviously, I remember he was managing that game when we won, but I didn't really keep much tabs on what happened to you guys after that.
It's been a hell of a merry-go-round since then. So Gary Monk was given the job. He had a couple of decent. We had a decent start to the season. We were third at Christmas, and then we never won again. I think the Calvert-Lewin game that you were talking about. You guys won 2-0. Expected Premier League team against a Championship team. We wanted to concentrate on the league. We were pushing for playoffs. We were third at Christmas. It's fine. We'll go out of the League Cup. It's okay. However, I don't know if you remember the game, but I think DCL scored in the first. He got 2 in the first 10 minutes, and then it was the worst game of football that anybody has had the misfortune to witness. You guys just passing it around.
I'll be thrilled to say that I wasn't actually watching that game. I just literally saw the highlights afterward, and I can't recall there being much else other than the goals. So
pretty much it. It was. It just wasn't something that turned up. But then, so we had third at Christmas. Then, we got 3 wins in the next 18. And we weren't drawing many either. And we finished just outside of relegation at the end of last season. Now, so what we did, we thought to ourselves, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll give Gary the summer, let him get his own people in. We'll get the coaching team in, and let him give him a proper chance, run. Yeah. Of course. And then we got to October, and we were given a 12-point deficit, and then then that got reduced to 6. Now, the damage was already done with Gary Monk. We were abject. And then we got in Tony Pulis, which I was very vocal about on many media.
Positively or negatively?
Oh, I absolutely couldn't believe that we'd taken on something as negative as that. I was devastated that we'd got Tony Pulis in. I can understand the thinking behind it, and there'll be people listening to this, and there'll be people listening to me 4 months ago. Who would understand why Tony Pulis would have been appointed for a job such as that. But the bloke's a dinosaur. He's had no real success in the last 10 years. And what he did to our team was the epitome of square peg and round hole. It was very much, I played this way of football, this route one, here's this football, and then we defend a 1-0 lead for 90 minutes. And you can't do that when you've got players like Barry Bannon in the middle of the park and decent strikers like Josh Windass. He's a very capable striker. But they were feeding off scraps, and Barry Bannon was getting neck ache. And there was a few articles came out like Tony Pulis is going to tell the chairman how it goes and how it is and who what's happening and all the rest of it. I'm going to tell him how it goes. I'm going to tell him this. And then it transpired that they'd not actually spoken since he got the job. And then 2 weeks later, I'm going to tell him this. I'm going to tell him this. And then he did. And then the day after, he got fired. So after 45 days.
Pretty intriguing. I mean, we'll roll it back a little bit to the 12-point deduction, which then became 6, as you say. What was all that about?
Okay, so it's a weird one, actually, because there was 3 clubs. There was us, Derby County, and I can't remember who the other one was. And we'd all sold our ground to ourselves, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what we did, different to Derby, is that we released our accounts very late, a lot late. They're supposed to be in by a certain date. We were about 6 months behind. So we got hit with a deficit of points, initially 12 points. Now, the maximum penalty for doing that, for releasing late accounts, is 9. We spoke to, is it Kieran, what's his name, the guy from Price of Football. We had him on the show to come and try and explain to us what the maximum penalties was. So if we got caught falling foul of the rules in reference to selling our ground to ourselves and delaying our accounts, we could have had 21 points taken off.
Wow.
We were actually fortunate to get 12. And it turns out that the way we did the ground selling wasn't illegal. And so that was reduced to 6. If we were given our 6
illegal?
points, it was us being late. We tried to fish in some money that came in late, and we tried to put them into the 2018 accounts when they should have been in the 2019 accounts. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We were cheating. Don't get me wrong. However, because of the wet behind the ears approach from our chairman, who wasn't a football man, he had sought advice from the EFL, from Rick Parry, and Rick Parry's predecessor. He was having an interaction with him about the ground share. Are we falling foul of any rules, anything like that? And then when that email chain surfaced, we got given 6 points back. That's what happened. Rick Parry's very unpopular figure around Hillsborough and Sheffield, I'm afraid.
I mean, Rick Parry was pretty unpopular among a lot as well. Of course, he's an ex-Liverpool chief exec and ex-Premier League chief exec as well, and he always seems to have that kind of.
At the risk of pulling at a thread that I don't want to get into, Rick Parry was at Liverpool when an incident happened with Liverpool Football Club in 1989, and there's been a lot of bad blood between the club and him personally since that incident, and that's where Sheffield Wednesday gets put under the microscope a little bit more than, for example, Derby County would. However, fast forward ourselves into the new season, and Derby County and Sheffield Wednesday are still very much at the bottom of the league. We are the epitome of the club that went for it and then failed, and then now we're really struggling.
Yeah, and you find yourself like after you're 23rd in the table at the moment. You have this deduction as well, so it's not been easy at all. What's been going wrong this season? Like, obviously, you mentioned a bit of the Pulis situation, but is that the be-all and end-all of it, or is there more to it?
I think there's a lot more to it. We can't afford to, there was rumours of us not paying the players. We can't afford to keep contracts on players. We had to sell players at the end of the season. I mean, look at Lucas João for Reading. You know what I mean? He's scoring hatfuls, and we got £8 million for him. We should have held out for more. But we've lost Sam Hutchinson, who we got from Chelsea. We've lost Ati Nuhiu, who'd been at the club for about 7 years, and because we had to balance the books, and because Gary Monk wanted his own team, and then it turns out that team weren't very good, and we've spent what little money we have on underperforming players, and then when you get rid of Gary Monk, like I mentioned before, if you put Barry Bannon in a Tony Pulis team, it's a waste of time, because Barry Bannon stood there watching the ball sail over his head while it goes to big old Callum Patterson up front. It's not a match made in heaven. So I think a lot of people will blame people like Jordan Rhodes for hoovering up a lot of the wage budget and a lot of the transfer budget, who was essentially, for all intents and purposes, being a huge flop for us.
Oh yeah, well, it's one of those. I think I found a lot of these there's been a few owners of this ilk, but it's Dayfon Shansiri, is that his name?
Mm-hmm.
What do people make of him?
It's weird because, have you ever liked a band and then they become really popular and then all of a sudden you don't like them anymore? But you've watched their meteoric rise to success where you're like, wow, look at them. I bought their first single. I was there at the start. With DC, it's the other way. It came in, we had no players. We had nothing. We had nothing going on. And the chairman came in with his tuna money and went, "There you are, lads, spend what you want." We went, "This is balling, this is great." And then the following season, we're in the playoffs. We got the playoff final against Hull.
Lost the final against Hull, didn't you?
That's right. And then we lost the semi-final against Huddersfield, the season that they went up on 2 0-0 draws. So we were like, wow, this guy's absolutely changed our life. He's changed
2017, you must have like thought it was only a matter of time before you guys went up.
Absolutely. We were sat there going, I tell you what, lads, but let's get the season tickets in. We're all coming. I want my seat back. You know what I mean? Back from 1994. I want my seat back. And then after that, it's just been one financial and backroom mistake after another. We had a group of people. We had Glenn Roeder come in behind the chairman to advise him, because he wasn't a football guy. And when he realized he wasn't getting the job after Carlos Carvalho went, he up sticks and went. We've got a commercial officer in called Catherine there, who was at Charlton before, and now she's at Club Bruges. Really one of those big, scary, powerful women, like, you know what I mean?
Charlton are in an absolute mess as well, so I don't know how anyone thought that was a good idea.
Absolutely, yeah. I think she came under a fair bit of scrutiny actually when it came to she referred to the fans as customers, and she wasn't very popular after that. I mean, let's be honest, we are. You know what I mean? But
don't actually sugarcoat it a bit.
Yeah, innit? She didn't even try to to mask it, But yeah, so since then, there's been a few absolute howlers that has all culminated in us starting this season with a 12-point deficit. And we are an unsellable asset. Nobody wants us. We can't spend any money, even though we've got it, because we've fallen so foul of financial fair play. And Steve Gibson at Middlesbrough keeps grassing us up every opportunity he gets when we try and bend the rules a little bit.
Well, I didn't think Steve Gibson for such a grass.
Yeah, innit? Him and his mate Tony Pulis as well, it turns out. They're busy mates.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, speaking of purity, we only lasted 45 days at Sheffield Wednesday. Mm-hmm. What went so wrong? Why did he only last that long? I mean, I know it's been great to watch, but what did he do wrong?
Tony Pulis came in, and there was a buzz about the place in the fact that he'd never been relegated. You know what I mean? Fine. All right, look, we're in a relegation fight before we've even kicked a football. Let's get somebody in who's going to shore it up. The club was in such a mess, and I think that there's an element of the chairman not telling him just how much of a mess we're in, and there's also an element of Tony Pulis being a belligerent, silly old dinosaur. So he just came in. And the first training session, we spoke to a couple of the players, offline. And the first training session, he came in and he set up a square in the corner of the pitch and said, right, we're going to stand in this opposing corner. Who can hit that ball into that square? So, you know what I mean? That's literally day one, training session one.
Pump the ball into
we're going to hoof it into a square. That's what we're going to do. And, we've got this talent in Barry Bannon, which everything plays through. But for some reason, he's just
like, I'll sod that, just won't put it up.
Yeah, just hoof it. Just get it over his head, pal. It's all right. You know what I mean? And then
I can imagine him saying it and all.
Exactly right. So that's where that went wrong. And then there was a few interactions that I found out via a friend of Tony Pulis's that there are 3 players that we are not going to offer the contract to, or weren't going to offer a contract to, and one of them was Barry Bannon, one's Adam Reach, and the other one is Tom Lees. Now, if you ask
all your best players,
they are literally all our best players. Yeah, I was literally going to say, if you asked a man in the street, name 3 Sheffield Wednesday players, you'd get at least 2 of them right, wouldn't you? Yeah. So there was a fallout there, and what Tony did was go to the media. And he released an article via the Sheffield Star saying, we're going to try and offer contracts to these 3 guys. They're integral to the way Sheffield Wednesday play. And our chairman was very much, this guy, where's that come from? You know what I mean? Because that's what, he's not a football guy and he doesn't know how it works. So it got to the point where he sacked him, because in the conversation the day before he got sacked, he had a conversation with the chairman, and Tony Pulis threatened, and this is verbatim from the chairman, he threatened to call in sick unless he got his own way. That's where we are as a club right now, kids. Stay tuned.
Grown men, it is. We're talking about grown men here.
It? Well, I'm not very well then. Fine. I got the Rona.
Sodom, poor sickie. Oh, goodness me. So he basically got sacked because he wants to pull a sickie because he was upset.
Incredible, isn't it? Incredible. This is elite football that Boris Johnson's been apologising for the past 6 months.
Speaking of Boris Johnson and illnesses and whatnot, there's been 2 positive COVID tests in the Sheffield Wednesday squad. Do you think who are they first of all? And
we actually haven't been told. We were told that it was 13 players and 2 members of staff. Because I remember it's the same numbers as the Celtic one. It was like literally the whole team. So us, like yourselves, we've not played in a couple of weeks. We've had to reschedule games. We were supposed to play Coventry last weekend. We haven't. We've been riddled with it, and we believe it came from the Derby game when we played them because they had an outbreak the day after we played them or something like that. Sorry, I didn't give them the full name. Wayne Rooney's Derby County. Sorry, I forgot that was what they get called now.
Oh goodness. But yeah, regarding the COVID situation, how's it affected Wednesday across the course of the whole of 2020 as well? Like going back to last year.
Well, it's a weird one. Like at the top of the show, you mentioned that we are 23rd, and it doesn't help that Rotherham and Wayne Rooney's Derby County both picked up points last night, and which has sent us further down. I mean, it's awful having that game in hand at the bottom of the table because the teams above you have those points. When you're at the bottom, game in hand isn't really a thing because you're at the bottom, and it's not like a guaranteed 3 points because you're pushing for playoffs and you're playing 20th. No, you've got to beat somebody who's mid-table and try and get 3 points and claw your way out of it. Yeah. But I think the ironic thing is that we've been given 6 points back, and during the Pulis time, we got given 6 points. Bear in mind that's Tony Pulis's best points per game ratio in a while. The 6 points he got, and the 3 draws that he got in 10 games, 3 draws and 7 losses or something like that. That literally didn't pick up a bloody win. Oh no, we got 1 win against Coventry. That was it. So once we got given those 6 points back, if we were given the other 6 points back, we would still be in relegation, which is a very sobering thought.
Concerning that. Certainly. With that in mind, how have the players been faring lately? Has the performances improved since obviously is it Neil Thompson?
Yes. In
charge now, a temporary charge, or how have they fared since Pulis left?
Well, we've won every game.
Wow.
Yeah, we have. We've won every game, but do not let one swallow doesn't make a summer and all the other cliches that you can say about it. I think what we need to remember is that these were 3 very hard fought games that we've won. These are 1-0s. These have been dreadful games of football to watch, but we're winning, so we'll take it.
Oh,
and especially with the teams around you picking up points as well. It's great. And one of those was a game against Exeter in the Cup. So we've only actually picked up 6 points, as it were.
Either way, it's still impressive. It looks like you might be getting yourselves back on track. But then in mind, coming into our game, you could be the danger man for Wednesday, who's been sort of starring for you in the last few weeks, and who should we watch out for?
This is interesting because we've got Massimo Luongo, who we got from, I think it was QPR, who's been great in the middle of the park next to Bannon. And then we've got Josh Windass as well, who I mentioned earlier. 2 very good players. Josh has not played under Neil Thompson yet, and we've been relying on players like Callum Patterson, who is essentially just a large telegraph pole with a big fat ass. You know what I mean? He does a job, but for to sell Atinuhu and Rico is mental for me. But there has been one light at the end of the tunnel. A really interesting one is an academy prospect called Liam Shaw. Played against Exeter, and I don't know if you get to see this goal, but we didn't do it justice on TV when it was replayed. Actually, picked it up deep in his own half, dribbled it in a diagonal line to the other side of the pitch, and then crossed it in for Patterson's tap-in inside the 6-yard box. And this guy has been outstanding, made team of the week a couple of times as well. He's a real prospect that we need to start looking out for. And I think he'll be defending against probably Dominic Calvert-Lewin. So we'll see what he's made of on Saturday.
What does he play then?
He's a defensive midfielder, centre-back. So depending on who's playing and where they go, we're very much a square peg round hole team at the minute, thanks to TP.
As a defensive midfielder / centre-back who gets to the line and which crosses in.
Yeah, isn't it? It's insane.
Well, that's interesting.
We haven't had a player like that since Roland Nilsson.
Roland Nilsson was a good player for you guys.
He was outstanding. He was the best. He was the king.
Sick, but anyone else we should be looking out for? Obviously Adam Reach, I think, is the one I've always kept an eye on.
If you said, like I said to you before, if you asked anybody in the street and said to them, name me a couple of Sheffield Wednesday players now, they would say Bannon and Reach. Bannon is very much the remainder of a team that got to the playoff final, and he doesn't have the players around him that he used to, like your Gary Hoopers and your Ross Wallaces that he could find. So he's kind of fighting a losing battle at the minute. And Adam Reach is an absolute shadow of the player he was 2 years ago. Last season, he was particularly poor. He started to find some form a little bit recently under Neil Thompson, because obviously, it's Neil Thompson who's coached him for the last 4 or 5 years. So he knows what the best role is for players such as this. So let's hope we utilise him to the best, because sticking him, have you ever had those players that are utility players and their versatility can work against them because you get regarded as a jack of all trades? Now, Reach for me is if you play Football Manager, is an AML. He's an attacking midfielder left. That's what he is. But we've had him in centre mid, we've had him attacking midfield at centre, we've had him at left back, we've had him left wing back, we've had him up front. You know what I mean? Every manager's come in and done something different with him. But if he's marauding down that left hand side, he's worth it.
Yeah. And so, what would you imagine the sort of lineup would be going into this game? What could be?
It depends who's fit. But we may even get Westwood back in goal. He's had a couple of managers who have left him on the sidelines for reasons that we still haven't had explained to us yet. So we'll probably end up with Westwood. If not, it'll be Joe Wildsmith, and then we'll probably play 5 against you. We'll play 3 at the back, and then 2 wing backs with Kadeem Harris and Liam Palmer at wing back, and then in the middle there'll be Bannon and Shaw with Luongo, hopefully, and then there'll be Patterson and Windass up front. It'll probably be a 5-3-2 situation just to try and keep you out, because we didn't manage it last time inside 10 minutes. I don't think we realised we started playing until you were already 2-0 up last time. Yeah,
well, to be fair, I think last time that was like a eye of a storm for us, because around that we were absolutely terrible and got beat off your noisy neighbours weekend after it. So what wasn't a good time for us then. Of course, Marco Silva got the sack since. And with that in mind, obviously, Carlo Ancelotti's come in since the last game. And what have you made of us since Carlo took over?
This is really interesting, actually, because obviously since our first interaction, you always keep an eye out now, don't you? And we end up following each other. So, I did a Fulham podcast and a Watford one and a Forest one, and now I know what they're up to and who they're whinging about. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But the start of the season that you guys had, I thought, wow, tell you what, Ancelotti's really put his mark on it and got a tune out of James Rodriguez. Now, James Rodriguez is an interesting signing, because he could go down in history as one of those tournament players that just had one good tournament and then has lived off the back of it for the rest of his career. But let's not forget, he was playing at Real Madrid. He's not shite. Do you know what I mean? And there was a really interesting thing that Ancelotti said, actually, in the media the other week, where he went, good players don't need time to bed in, to settle. Do you know what I mean? And I like that. He went, if you're a good player, you play football, regardless of all this settling in nonsense, which I quite like from Ancelotti. He's very straight talking.
He's very he's straight to the point, Ancelotti. I do like that about him.
And I think, I don't know how your season turned so much. Was there a game where I could tell you that, Stoke Boxing Day was where our season just absolutely flipped on its head. But there was a point where you were absolutely rinsing the top of the league and then just fell away and everybody caught you up.
A lot of it was the Merseyside derby. We got a decent result. It was a draw against Liverpool, but Richarlison got sent off in that game, 3-game ban. We missed him badly at the time. lost 3 in a row, and then instantly won again when he came back against Fulham. And as on top of that, we've had a number of injuries to key players since. Alan's had 2 hamstring injuries. Calvert-Lewin's actually out at the moment with a hamstring injury. So you won't have to worry about it.
Brilliant.
So, and then Lucas Dean, who's one of our he's probably our best attacking component aside from James. He was out for a while, and he's just been back for the past 2 weeks. So, we've had a lot of injuries to key players, and I think there was a time the season was derailed a little bit, even though we got a result in the Merseyside derby. Games afterwards, like I said, we lost, and there was a lot of media coverage on us. Jordan Pickford was getting pelters from the press because, of course, he injured one of the press's favourite players.
Yeah,
and you don't go after a darling of the press.
Do you reckon that the grief he's had in the newspapers has affected him? Because Pickford for me is one of those keepers that is either outstanding or bloody dreadful. Is either one or the other.
Well, what it seems to have done, I'll be honest, I think it did affect him at first, but I think in the end he seems to have come out of it a little bit stronger. He seems like a bit more level-headed now than he's ever been before. He was very erratic. I don't know, he just seems a bit more mature lately. I don't know whether that's Carlo Ancelotti's management getting to him at long last, but he does seem to have come out of it stronger, which is really good to see. And there was times where you worried for his mental health a little bit in the weeks after that injury, because the media were really baying for blood from him. And
but
it was an absolute disgrace the way the media treated him. But
it was. I mean, bear in mind the challenge, though. I always watch the Scouts derby. I love it. And he nailed him. You're like, yes, that's right. That's how you play football.
I think it was one of them, though. I don't even think he nailed him. I just think he was clumsy. And
he just went out, and it was just a clumsy
He's a bit of a clumsy player. So, but at the end of the day, I think it was more people were acting as if he'd tried to kill him or something, and it was just a bit it was harsh, and he had to hire bodyguards to look after his family and all kinds because of the abuse.
I mean, it did make me laugh. The way that, do you remember when Steven Gerrard retired? It was the same type of thing on the social medias. It was like he died. It was like Virgil van Dijk had just died on the pitch. And you're like,
well, that's what we call.
He's got injured.
That's what we've called it now, the Virgil Vigil. So. But
I love it.
Yeah, basically, I mean, that sort of knocked us for 6 a little bit. I think having the press scrutiny didn't help. I think since then, I think Carlo's changed the system a little bit. We were lacking a lot of key players, like I say, and we sort of knuckled down a little bit and started grinding out ugly wins. And that proved very successful for us during December. We lost the West Ham game where we played really poorly. And then beat Wolves in the last game with another good defensive display. I think more recently our displays have been more defensive and our results have improved because of it, which is interesting. Obviously, the entertainment factor is not there, but it's hard to be entertaining when we're still a work in progress. Our first 11s are very good, but our second 11 isn't really.
Yeah,
and that's the one thing that I think. I'll be honest with you, Dan. That's my big fear going into this game against you guys, is that if we put out some of our second team, they just don't. Some of our second team are absolutely dreadful, and they won't bother turning up. Yeah,
it's long gone are the days where people are excited to play Premier League Sheffield Wednesday in 1993. You know what I mean? We're not exactly going to get your U team riled up, are we? I mean, I watched your game against Rotherham, and you didn't. Rotherham are a very stingy team in terms of letting goals in, and they had a wonderful draw last night with Stoke. I mean, they drew 3-3. I mean, they're having a rich game of form, but the problem is they either score goals and let them in, or don't let them in and don't score goals. They're one or the other. But I thought that was a hell of a game. Did they take you to extra time on that?
Yeah. No,
they're a tight team at the back, Rotherham, when they want to be.
Yeah, they really are, but. I think that was another game where, like I say, we put our second string out, and some of those players are just not professional. If you don't mind me saying, just don't give a damn. I think the players, some of them are just happy to just be there, just claim a wage, and they haven't got the hunger to succeed that maybe our first 11 have.
Mm-hmm.
It always makes me worry when we get a few injuries, you see.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like, I don't think the depth's there just yet. I mean,
No,
surely nobody's calling for Ancelotti's head or anything like that, are they?
No chance now. No.
So, I mean, all right, you nowhere near Liverpool. I'm sure you've had 30 years to get over that bit. But, I mean, there must be a point where you feel that you're at the start of something, like you're moving forward. I mean, James Rodriguez, in terms of a name and shirt sales and all the rest of it, is something where you go, look at us. Look at what we're doing. I mean, I thought you were going to do it under Koeman. I thought that he was a very shrewd signing for Everton, and then I don't think he's very popular up there. But
he's not been a very shrewd signing for Barcelona either, it seems.
Yeah, the only team he's been good at the last 10 years has been bloody Southampton or something. Yeah, Feyenoord. Yeah, that's pretty much it. But you must feel like you're at the start of something right now, and surely a cup run would be something to galvanise the fans, given the recent form of the team since you were top of the table. No.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it'll pick us up a bit, and I think it's important. Ancelotti said he wants to win silverware here, so that's like he wants to get us to the cup final or something. Mm-hmm. And we need that. We can't put your eggs in one basket, and winning the cup's a way of qualifying for Europe, and so you might as well go and try and win that as well. Like, what happens either way.
They took the odd stance of pulling out the next round as well. Who is it? Is it Luton Town and? Is it Crawley? I can't remember if it was Crawley or...
Ooh, for us, if we get through.
Yeah, if you beat us, who's
it's Spurs.
Spurs or Wickham. Brilliant. Yeah. Brilliant. Now, you see, Spurs an away day for us is a big turnout. You know what I mean? We'd be very happy with that.
No, usually be at Hillsborough if you win.
Yeah, that's what I mean, though. But I mean, like, that's the day. If we'd have been allowed a stadium full of people, we'd have turned out for Spurs. I mean, we beat Arsenal 3-0. A few years ago, because Hillsborough was back to its glory days. It was full. There was 40,000 people there rocking and bouncing, and it's got that same element of the Dell, where teams didn't like going there sometimes because of the amount of players. The fans were on top of the players and all the rest of it. And I'm devastated we can't go. I must admit, I'm really fed up of this now. I'm bored of it. I miss the football.
Who isn't though? Let's be honest. But I think. It's a case of like it's all going to come down to what the team sheets say on an hour before kickoff. See how we get on, but we always do it anyway. Predicted score.
Oh, I think you'll do us again, probably about 2 or 3-0. I don't think we need a cup run. We've got a lot of other things on our plate to worry about, and we'll probably play more kids than what we'd like, and we'll probably use it as a way to ease back Bannon and Luongo and Reach back from injury. Yeah. We'll use it as a stepping block. But bear in mind, but back in the day, I remember we'd be playing and we'd always whinge that the international break would break up the season. I still hate it now, don't get me wrong, but something changed about 3 or 4 years ago where you actually, especially when you're in the Championship and all your players aren't playing international football, that the players get to recharge a little bit, and we used to come out absolutely raging. But there's no worse than going into a break winning. So we've had three results on the bounce.
I can tell you that is going into a break losing works.
Yeah,
you got to brood over that for 2 weeks. Then,
to be fair, there's no time, is there? There's no good time for a break.
Just get rid of it. Get rid of the international break.
Nobody cares anymore.
But yeah, I think my prediction, I'm going to say we win 2-1. I think it's going to be another. I don't think it'll be as much of a landslide as you think. Like I say, I don't think our reserve players are as up to the task as you think they'll be. Mm-hmm. And I think they'll make heavy weather of it. I think we will win, but it won't be easy.
Fair enough. It's a very diplomatic set of predictions there, lads.
Certainly was. I think we're both there, being as humble as we can be there.
Hey, we're 23rd in the Championship. I can be nothing else but
Before
humble.
we finish, actually, on that note, what's your predicted finish for Wednesday in the Premier League? In the Championship?
That's a big ask. That's a big ask. I'd hope, anything north of relegation and about 15th, anything in that little gap there is great. You know what I mean? We've managed to get over a big hurdle there, given what a soap opera our season's been. But like I said, Rotherham aren't shy, and neither are Derby County. They've got some players there capable of turning games, and so those two are in with us. And to think that Derby County, Nottingham Forest, and Sheffield Wednesday are all in that, because I think there are certain groups of football clubs, and you would put those three clubs, Derby, Forest, and Wednesday, into a little group of people that used to be great, now aren't. They've got a decent fan base, decent sized stadiums. Now, now it's empty. They've both gone for it and they failed. You know what I mean? And for us three to be fighting to get out of relegation, I feel is massive. Send Wickham and bloody Rotherham down.
I know what you mean. There's going to be a big name that falls, I think, isn't there?
Yeah, there is.
Sure, it's not you guys.
Yeah, but we've got this -6 deficit that's hovering over us. So we need to start winning games and sharpish.
Yeah, well, we've made a good start last couple of weeks. Maybe getting back on track. Yeah, fingers crossed there. And another little question before we finish, obviously from a completely different point of view, but rivals. What have you made of Sheffield United season? Awful, but they were good, really good last year, but it looks like they'll be joining. Well, if you stay up, at least they'll be joining.
If we stay up, we'll get the derbies back. But I tell you what, I'm going to be diplomatic. Now, a lot of our fans are loving how dreadful they are in the Premier League. Now, you and I both know, you've seen enough football to know that there is such a thing as second season syndrome. Huddersfield did it, Sheffield United did it, I think Hull City did it, Stoke did it, but still managed to stay up for Christ knows how long. Did Blackpool do it? Yeah, but
Blackpool went straight back down.
Did they? They were top of the league for the first 7 games, weren't they? And went sailing down. But there is a point. And what I mean is, there is a point where teams get found out. And what Sheffield United did really well, they worked on fitness and they worked on attacking, and they played good attacking football in the Championship. And that first season in the Premier League, they did exactly the same. And people went, "Who are these guys? Who are these coming in here with their attacking football?" And then end up winning. And Billy Sharp's lethal if you get the ball to him in the right area. Now, what they've done in the second season, they've just been found out. People have done their own work and gone, "Oh, well, this is what they're going to do then." And then now they can't buy a win. Now, like I said, the fans on social media are loving it. We're 23rd in the Championship. Who the chuff am I laughing at a Premier League team? Who would I think I am going, "Ha, ha, ha, you're rubbish," whilst I'm sat in a house that's on fire? You know what I mean? You can't in good conscience, can you? You know what I mean? So, lol at Sheffield United, but I've got better things to worry about than yellow teeth Chris Wilder.
Yeah, I mean, it could be worse. It could still be Tony Pulis in the dugout.
Well, this is it. We've got Tony Pulis in charge. We've had a manager for 45 days, a chairman who doesn't know what he's doing. We've had a 6-point deficit. Yeah, I'm not going to be laughing at Sheffield United too much this season. There you
go, fair enough. Finally, last question. We always end on a bit of a light-hearted note. What's the best, strangest, or worst time when you've ever met a famous footballer or a celebrity?
Oh God, this is a good one actually. So at the with the podcast, obviously I've met a couple of people and we've interviewed a few of the players, and one of my favourites that we had was ex-Bristol City and Swindon Town, and obviously Sheffield Wednesday player Lee Peacock. Now he's a big old guy. He's similar to me. He's about
big centre forward, wasn't he?
Big old centre forward, big old stag, and he played in the League One playoff final, which we got promoted via Hartlepool at Wembley, and we won 4-2. So it obviously is quite popular with the Wednesday fans. And there was one day we went to Brighton for the playoff semi-final. And I lived in Southampton, and he was working at Eastleigh, the small club in and around the area. I said to him, "Oh, are you gonna Brighton next week?" He went, "Yeah." I said, "Do you fancy a lift?" "Yeah, all right." So we're driving down, you know what I mean. And what he was doing was he was getting on his bike, raising money for charity, and driving around France on his bike, trying to raise money for this thing. And he went to all the World Cup venues all around the.
This 2018 was it?
Where was the one in France? 2016 it was.
Euro 16, yeah.
Euros, yeah. So he was going around all the stadiums in France. And And it was really odd because he went, all right, brilliant, cheers. You know, well, he got mobbed all day, and I just stood there holding his coat the entire time, like, yeah, Sleepy, he's my friend, like, you know what I mean? And I said, oh, are you going to the final then at Wembley? He went, yeah, of course, I'm commentating on it as it goes. He went, oh yeah, brilliant. So he used to have those, you know, those shaking cans that you get, the charity cans that people shake at you in the entrance to Tesco's, like,
oh yeah.
You know what I mean? He had a couple of them for his charity, for his thing, and he came. You know, we met everybody up in London and people who watched the show, so we had a bit of a Wednesday week meet up, and I brought Lee Peacock, made me look great, and then somebody turned up with Conor Bloody Wickham. Like, all right, yeah, just trump me, like, you know what I mean? I brought League One hero, and you brought Conor Bloody Wickham, who was on loan and scored again. Anyway, I'm not bitter about it. So anyway, we got the ground, and he said, Dan, I'm going to go up to the press box now. Can you look after these charity shakers? Cans? Yeah. I went, yeah, all right, no worries. And I've gone up to the door, and the guy wouldn't let me in with him. He went, yeah, you can't come in. I went, why? He went, well, we've got our own charities. You can't beg for charity at a football ground. It's a thing. And I went, it's like you get caught with fags. You know what I mean? They're not mine. They're a mate of mine's. Like that. These aren't for me. Like, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I got escorted to the main desk at Wembley, and I got asked a load of questions. Got sat in a little room. My poor girlfriend didn't know what was going off at the time, and I'm just sat in this little room going, yeah, they're Lee Peacock's. They're not mine. Can you let me in, please? So I had to get them signed over by this big burly security guard, and I missed about the first 10 minutes of the Premier League playoff final because Lee Peacock couldn't be asked to carry his own shit.
Well, there you go. That's an interesting story there. Yeah. I really wasn't expecting one that interesting. That was brilliant. Thanks so much for sharing that with us. Great story, but yeah, we'll leave it at that anyway. Obviously, Everton versus Sheffield Wednesday's on this Sunday. And yeah, we'll be both going into this one off the back of a win, and we'll just try and see how we get on. I mean, we played championship relegation battles in the last round and didn't negotiate it too easily, so we were lucky to get through. But it is hoping for a better one for our sake anyway, and we'll just see what happens. So very warm thanks, of course, to Dan for joining me again on Toffee Blues. It's always great to have you on, and hopefully it won't be too long before we have you on again. Hopefully for a Premier League game a few years down the line. You never know.
Let's hope. Thanks for having me.
But anyway, great to have you on. Thanks for coming on. And of course, you guys at home, thank you for watching on the Toffee Blues, and we'll see you next time.